Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Ossinin's Town Board meeting for Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I have a halo behind me. Okay.
Councilmember DeTore?
Present.
Councilmember Jeffrey?
Present.
Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
And Supervisor Levenberg.
Here.
Do we have any announcements?
We do. We have been quite busy in the town of Ossining as of late, but before we get into the upcoming events, I want to give everyone an update on the work at Route 9A and Route 134. The state is set to open the road tonight at 1 a.m. They are just finishing up striping and guardrails, and they still have a few more items, but will have the road open with some flag personnel directing traffic to get the last few items complete. So that should happen again at 1 a.m. tonight / tomorrow morning. Hopefully traffic will be flowing normally tomorrow, and so will the stormwater, we hope, around that formerly problematic intersection. Thanks again to Michael G. O'Connor, our highway superintendent, and the town highway department, especially our foreman, Johnny Martin, our master mason, Matteo Villardo, John Orlando, and Kevin Moore for their hard work on the triple pipe and new wall, and to Andy Teese for his help coordinating this massive job with the folks from the state and our contractor Manganero, including the new water and sewer line that was put in by the state for the town and village. Well, really for the town, but it's the village water department. We know the neighborhood is happy to finally get this work done, and so are we. I also want to encourage everyone to take a ride up to Cedar Lane Park and check out the awesome work that our Parks Department has done at the pavilion. I will venture to say that you will barely recognize it, and to say that the work was done quickly is an understatement. Thanks to our Parks foreman, Mario Villardo, and his team, Juan Toribio, Marco Piscopiello, Steve White, Larry Aber Jr., and of course, Matteo Villardo, for their vision on this beautiful site. And also thanks to Paul Frioli, our town engineer, for helping us put the project all together with our paving contractor, Rinaldi. I'm pleased to report that this Thursday, October 12th, the town of Ossining will be hosting the Westchester Municipal Officials Association monthly meeting at our own the Briarcliff Manor, Antipasti di Napoli. Each member municipality is asked to host once every 5 years, and it is an opportunity to show our visiting guests some of our best venues and most delicious cuisine. Fortunately for us, Westchester municipal officials allowed us to participate in choosing a topic for the evening, and we knew right away who we wanted to invite. Sean Pica, Executive Director of Hudson Link, will be discussing all of the wonderful programs that Hudson Link is involved with, and also will be discussing the Ban the Box movement, which encourages employers to ban the box where an applicant indicates whether or not they have been convicted of a crime. Many other municipalities have changed their forms so that those in positions of hiring do not automatically eliminate a candidate before they have been given a chance to interview for a job. It doesn't preclude the municipality from doing background checks, of course, and finding out this information. We are very much looking forward to Sean's presentation and from hearing feedback from our neighboring municipalities. And in other events that are happening this week, we have a lot of activity this weekend on October 14th, which I believe is Saturday. Saturday, October 14th. The first thing that's going to be happening is the PBA 5K race, but I think I skipped a couple of things because my papers got mixed up. So before we get to this weekend, let me just say that every Monday night, the Crossover Yoga Project meets from 7 to 8:30 at Trinity Church at 7 South Highland Avenue in Ossining with a certified yoga instructor and a suggested donation of $10. Donations directly support the Crossover Yoga Project's mission to empower at-risk teen girls through yoga and art to overcome trauma and move toward positive change. You can go to crossoveryogaproject.org or I can help at crossoveryogaproject.org if you want to email or call 914-319-4010 for more information. Now to Saturday, the first event is hosted by the Ossining PBA. It's a 5K race. They're hoping for their first annual at Cedar Lane Park. Registration starts at 7:45 a.m. The race begins at 9 a.m., rain or shine. And in addition to all the work that we discussed up at the pavilion, the Parks Department also spent the day pulling out the walking trail that was not in such good shape around the pond at Cedar Lane Park in preparation for this race, so that we would make sure that the path was in very good shape. So they will be putting down item 4 for the race, and hopefully that'll make a much better surface to run on. Okay, hold on for 1 second. Skipping around. Then also later that day at Cedar Lane Park at the Cedar Lane Arts Center, the Ossining Arts Council is hosting the Open Studio Tours Day, and you can get more information by going to miriamhaas17@gmail.com, emailing her. I believe also the Ossining Arts Council has information on how to get tickets. There will be a number of tours of artists who don't have access to their own studios for the day, who will be set up at Cedar Lane Park at Cedar Lane Arts Center, so you can take a look at all the wonderful artwork that we have from our artists in the Arts Council. And then you can go visit them in their other studios if you get a ticket for the day. Also on Saturday, the Westchester Collaborative Theater presents the Jazz Masters Music Theater series. There are 2 sets at 7:30 and 9 p.m. at 23 Water Street. Marlene Verplank, Westchester, I believe that she's a very well-known jazz musician, who will be accompanied by Jasmine, pianist Russ Kassoff, bassist Steve Laspina, and drummer Ron Vincent. And they're all veteran New York City jazzmen. Okay. On Sunday, October 15th, the Jug Tavern will host the final Sparta neighborhood tour of the season. This free tour starts at the Jug Tavern at 1 p.m., where visitors will enjoy a screening of the Battle of Sparta before heading out on a guided tour of Ossing's most historic neighborhood. Space is limited. Please email alan@jugtavern.com to reserve your spot. The Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series continues on Thursday, October 19th at 6:30 p.m. with a screening of Swim Team, which chronicles the extraordinary rise of 3 diverse young athletes capturing a moving quest for inclusion, independence, a life that feels like winning, and shows how a swim team can bring hope to a community. And there are some excellent speakers. Please mark your calendars for the Ossining Historical Society Museum's 86th annual dinner and silent auction, which will take place at the Briarcliff Manor on Studio Hill Road on Friday, October 20th at 6 p.m. Tickets are limited. Call 914-941-0001 by October 13th to secure your spot for this event. We have the last gravestone cleaning, sponsored by the Ossining Historic Cemeteries Conservancy, scheduled for Saturday, October 21st at Historic Sparta Cemetery. You can contact them at ohcc10562@gmail.com or find them on Facebook for more information. And also at the Jug Tavern, the return of Tim Rowell on the banjo and Ambrose Vertibello on fiddle, the Roots of American Folk Music, will be performing at 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Saturday, October 21st, with a $5 suggested donation. Seating is very limited at the Jug, so reserve early. Events at jugtavern.org. You can email or call 914-941-1699. The Ossining Arts Council also has Off the Wall and a super supper on Saturday, October 21st at the Steamer Firehouse. There'll be a variety of art on display for sale across all price ranges. This is a perfect opportunity to pick up some holiday gifts. Yes, we're saying that word, holiday, while supporting our very talented local artists. The opening reception will be a super supper. Come and enjoy several varieties of warm, hearty, homemade dishes served in handmade ceramic bowls that you get to keep. The number of bowls is limited, so make sure to get there early. $25 will buy you 2 plentiful and delicious servings of food, plus salad, bread, and dessert. A variety of beverages will be on sale. You can get more information at OssiningArtsCouncil.org, and it begins at 6:30 p.m. Not to be forgotten, one of the big events for the town of the season is the Forest Ofir's Haunted Hayride on October 27th and 28th. I know we've talked about it a lot, but we're going to keep talking about it because we don't want anybody to miss out on this wonderful event. It takes place from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. You buy a ticket for the Hayride that's a timed ticket if you want to go on the actual ride. There are also lots of things for younger children under 10 to do on the field, and there'll be booths and a fire show that starts at 7:15, 8:15, and 9:15. So go to forestofirs.org to find out how you can get your tickets. And finally, I'll talk about this a little bit more in our special presentation section, but there will be another opportunity to weigh in on bike lanes and pedestrian access connecting Ossining to Millwood and the North County Trailway on Thursday, November 2nd in the Ossining Public Library Cafe at 53 Croton Avenue. And that's going to be at 1 p.m. or 7 p.m. It's in 1 hour, so come on by and you get an opportunity to see what we've been working on. And that is it for my announcements. What I miss?
Good. I don't think anybody'd have any time to go to anything else.
And this is just in 2 weeks, so there's an awful lot of stuff that we got going on all around Ossining. And I actually think that the other part of the jazz series kicks off, and I don't think I had that information, but that's coming up too. So
You also have the trunk or treat on Halloween.
Trunk or treat on Halloween will be happening on Main Street, I believe, similar to what happened last year, and that was instead of the community center. This is
Right.
the new addition, and kids come. And I think they're still doing. I don't know if they're still doing costume contests, but it's sponsored by the rec center and the police department. People come with trunks of delicious goodies, and kids can go visit up and down the block, and businesses participate, and it's lots of fun. So I hope everybody will get ready to come to Halloween on Main Street in the Village of Ossining. That's it for my announcements, I think. So.
Does anyone else have any announcements?
Any right now.
Okay, we'll move on to liaison reports.
I do. Is this on? Thank you. So the village of Briarcliff, in conjunction with the town of Ossining and our state elected officials, Sandy Galiff and David Carlucci, senator and assemblywoman, will be starting the project at 9A Route 9 on Route 9A and North State Road in probably a month or so. So they're close to breaking ground on this, and this would be many people try to get from one side of North State Road to the other side of North State Road and spend an inordinate amount of time because there's no left-hand turn and you can't get onto 9A, and it becomes kind of a quagmire. And so everybody kind of put in a little bit. The county also helped out. But ultimately, the village of Briarcliff is in charge of this project, and they should start fairly soon. You can also already see on Pleasantville Road and some markings happening. So, you know, I don't know what that's going to do to traffic for a little while in terms of, but you know, when you clean your house, things look bad before they get better. So this is, sometimes it gets a little difficult before it gets better, but I think the outcome is going to be fabulous. So we should look out for that.
Right. And as you mentioned, the town is contributing to that. The village of Briarcliff is taking the lead on the project. I did speak with the village manager. He said that basically they have already started doing some of the site work already. And he also said that they would not be closing lanes. Now, I don't know how that's going to work exactly and how they can get the work done, but he did say that the traffic flow was going to remain open while they were working. So whether they're doing flags or whatever, I don't think that they're planning to close the road, according to the village manager, unless that's just in the early stages. So I think initially we're going to be okay for a little while.
Having said that, part of that project was going to be the DOT was going to offer to put in new lights,
yes,
which we're going to be able to monitor traffic in some sense And so traffic flow, when it's lighter on 9A, maybe the lights on the cross streets. And that was going to go not just for 9A. They were talking about trying to do that.
Yeah, not just for North State Road.
I mean, not just for
and
North
down.
State, but maybe to 134 is the
Correct.
next light for that. Um,
Chappaqua Road.
Chappaqua Road.
Yeah.
and we should talk to them about the 134 because I've sat at that. If you try to make a left-hand turn from 9A going south onto 134, I counted 10 seconds. That light is 10 seconds. That's how long you have. It
Oh, you're saying
gets
short.
10 seconds.
I was gonna say.
So we might need to advocate for DOT to change some of that lighting. But if with this project, it might work.
I mean, they did say they were going to try to, a long time ago, they said that they were going to try to coordinate the lights as part of the project. You
Right.
said on North State Road. So whether or not they're actually going to follow through on that is yet to be seen. But they have been working on some of the signalization, I think, that was somehow affected by the work that they did on the culvert on 134. I think there might have been some problems with that. So hopefully all of this will end up being better in the long run for everybody.
Right.
That's the hope. Okay.
We'll move on to our departmental reports, and we have this evening our receiver of taxes, Holly Perlowitz.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. And good evening to everyone. Well, we went through our school tax collection for the month of September. Just to give a quick update, through the month of September, we collected $45.9 million. And then so far in October, we've collected another almost $5 million. So we're at $50.9 million, which is very good, I believe, in comparing it to previous years. We still have about 1.5 million in delinquent taxes, total of 357 parcels that are still delinquent, but things are coming in. I think that we had some extra we worked some longer days, extra hours were helpful to taxpayers. We did have over 700 taxpayers pay online, so when you think about it, it's not a lot as a percentage, considering we have over 10,000 parcels, but I just think slowly but surely people are starting to use the online system a little bit more. And everyone who comes in to pay taxes delinquent, I am begging them to please sign up for our alerts. Again, we've got over 10,000 taxpayers and only 1,300 have signed up for the alerts. So, it's becoming more of that type of world now, and people are busy and getting a quick alert. And I promise not to be obnoxious about sending out a lot of things, just alerts, to tell them when they need to pay. Especially since another bill does not go out in January. So more alerts. I'm hoping there are some things that I hope that I can put in that will be more instructive to our taxpayers about some of the laws and some of the perhaps also the things that we're working towards, better technology. Technology is at our fingertips now, and it'll take some time, but hopefully we'll be able to use that. Many people are asking to be able to have things more dynamically updated, being able to see that their payment has actually been received and processed. So we can look forward to the future.
And isn't it at the state level? I thought there was some legislation where they were working on figuring out a way to do automatic withdrawals from accounts versus having to.
That hasn't passed yet, but
that
maybe it'll come
yet,
up
but,
this year again.
Something that they're working on.
Yeah. So any questions? Anything I can respond to? It was a busy office, but it was a great experience.
Congratulations on your first school collection, and
Thank you.
it sounds like you're right up there with the best of them in terms of what's been collected so far. And we appreciate your continued customer service.
And
it's always a hard
exactly.
office to be to be in at
Yeah,
this
I tried, even with chocolate this year. So
time.
I
Chocolate
tried to make it as
can
much.
ease the pain of
Yes,
things.
for all of us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks so much
Have
for
a good
coming.
evening.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments on agenda items. Not seeing any. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the September 26, 2017 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
We need to table. We need to table these minutes because we didn't actually receive a copy of these. So I just want to. I'm not going to ask for a motion to table the approving these minutes because we did not receive these yet.
Right, I was like, why are we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so moved to
Okay.
table.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Thanks. That's what I meant to say. And all those in favor of tabling the minutes from September 26th? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thanks.
Resolved the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the October 3rd, 2017 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Resolved the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated October 10th, 2017, in the amount of $165,330.08.
So moved. Second.
Okay.
It seems so nice and little.
I know.
I wish you could
Just wait till
always-
next week,
wish
right?
you could always-
Next
We're on a very weird schedule now that the health insurance bill is always coming concurrently with like the OVAC, one payment out of 6, and then also several village IMA bills at once. So we're having like tiny ones and then very
Yeah.
Right.
big
Instead of
ones.
seeing it just
Yeah.
be consistent, we're doing a big and little. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved the town board of the town of Austining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of September 2017. Town clerk's office, town supervisor's office, and town tax receiver's office.
Do you have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Do we have any visitor recognition?
Any item?
Not seeing anyone. I have a motion to go into work session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Wonderful. Shortest meeting on record, maybe. Okay, so we're going to start our work session. Last week, we had Tom Earl from the Austin Boat and Canoe Club join us at our work session to discuss the need to replace some sections of siding on the building. Since this board last met, I had the opportunity to meet with Tom and with Ms. Kaya Gam, who is a restoration art design consultant, okay, who also happens to be on the village's historical review board, and she's also a member of the Boat and Canoe Club, to explore what some other color options might be, and we discussed the types of treatment that would be best in line with the historic nature of the building, but would also be in keeping with our beautiful waterfront. Kaya also was kind enough to advise us on what buildings of similar character look like along the waterfront, not just in Austining, but in our surrounding communities. And we left the meeting with a game plan. So I'd like to turn this over to Kaya and Tom to walk us through what they've been up to for the last few days.
We have to move.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
Thank you very much for having me here tonight to present this. We worked pretty quickly since Friday. I made a very short color story, which we'll start in a minute. No, don't start it yet.
I think we have to turn the other lights off. I don't
What is that? Are these yours?
Yeah, that's not right.
No, this is not it. This is not it. This is not the. It's you have to get the removable. That one. Yeah, and that's it. Do you have a clicker or do you want to click?
wherever you prefer.
I'll click.
It's attached.
That's fine. It's fine. I can be right here. Can everyone see? So So, as Dana was saying,
You wanna make that full screen?
that there was this opportunity that arose out of a scheduled and continuous maintenance at the Boat Canoe Club's house, which opened up for discussion of the exterior appeal of the club. Can we go full on this one?
Yep, just, upper left-hand corner.
Oops.
which is from beginning.
Upper left?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, and I'll get rid of that so we don't. Okay. So as the club was moving around the building, so to speak, it became clear that thank you, that the shingles on the front were beyond repair, and the decision was made to replace just the front at this point in time and continue applying a coat of paint and do minor repairs to the rest of the exterior before the winter set in. But as mentioned, seeing the bare front gave rise to an opportunity to ask the question, why not paint in a different color? So this is what we're discussing today, and I would like to present that in a way that I hope is as objective as possible. Do I just click on the left or right?
Yep, just the left.
Okay. So a little history. These are pictures of showing what, sort of from the beginning, we had the clubhouse was not a clubhouse at the time. It was built in 21 as the club, but the club was in existence from 1915. So the club came before the clubhouse, so to speak. And this is part of what you see, that we actually found white lap straight underneath the current shingles.
Wait, what?
Lap strake, which is the way boats are made. Some boats are made that are overlapping. It's not quite siding because it's not as overlapping. So it's more like they built it as a boat. And it makes sense. Some of them were boaters and they just built it as a boat. And in the picture down at the very left corner, you see that little white house all the way over in the water? That's it, yeah. That's the Boat and Canoe Club. So this we can sort of place it around in between the 20s and 30s because we have the elevated station all the way in the back, but the old station building is still there. The picture on the lower right shows, we believe, a time shortly after the shingles were put up. And at that time, we believe that it was actually what you call a creosote. I have a couple of old shingles just so you can see what it looked like. Where's the other piece? Do you have another one in there? Oh, well, you can see it maybe on this piece, but sorry, I don't have the right piece here. But you can see here, this is the old shingle with the brown color. And up underneath here, there was some seeping in of creosote that was going in underneath. This one also shows natural aging as well. I had another piece that I would have liked to show you that was a little more clear that the creosote has crept underneath. So, and that was also in keeping with what was there at the time. This is what the current color looks like if it was completely painted. Again, it's an overlay over a picture, so it's not really that vibrant. It doesn't show. It's a Photoshop. Yeah, and the south side has been painted and in the brown, and it has been able to structurally stabilize those shingles so that they can last for a little bit longer. Now, this is what it looked like before the painting, and see what it will look like after. So there's a little trick here. This is sort of a rendition of what the creosote would look like if we went with a darker color, which is this here. Again, these colors were hand mixed by me. So again, we can adjust them. We're looking at them in the darker light of an artificial light. When you have them outside with the sun, they will change, and they will change in all weather. So again, these colors can be adjusted.
So the colors, just to be sure, Tom, are you able to focus on in the seats? Okay. So the black is the one that you're suggesting. The one that we're looking at now that's on the chairs, that looks like it's black You're saying that's what it's gonna look
That is
like?
more like the creosote. Now, here's a real black.
That looks like brown or red.
It is in this light, it is basically.
It's the lighting.
This is true black, and it's the lighting, and it's where it stands, and, you know, if you have it up like this, it has a different angle. And again, it can be made a little darker, but I just wanted to bring this in to show that this is true black.
Yes.
And creosote was a little bit softer when it was faded. And again, it can be mixed to, see, this is also, it changes color all depending on what the rake is of the light. So that would be an option that also is affordable because painting darker over a dark color is just easier and is not so much work to do. It means that you can actually paint the south side again, and it still would be, you can even wait maybe with some of the surfaces and sides that are facing the water till a later time, and you can take the time to do that. So this is what it looked like before. And this is what I think the south side would look like if we did it in a gray. Just because there's some shadow lines that will come out, and unfortunately, that would not look so wonderful. A new fresh shingle with a new fresh color like here is gorgeous. There's no two ways about it. But to achieve that on the all visible sides, you know, you see, this is actually the front, but you would see something very similar to this from the stage, from Engels Park, and it would not give you that feel that you're looking for, and that we all are looking for, that it's a beautiful building on the.
Can you, I'm confused. So you're saying that the lighter gray that we see here,
Yeah.
that's what you think would happen, and so you
I am
don't
not
think
saying
that
I'm presenting options. I'm not
it might
saying
happen.
I'm not saying it might happen. I'm presenting options. So here is what it would look like.
Okay.
This is a gray overlay over the original picture.
Okay.
Repainting the old shingles would be extremely time consuming, and because the boards are so split, the shadow lines would accentuate the decrepit conditions of the shingles on the south and the water side. And the cost to replace the shingle on the south side at this time is, I believe, not currently in the club's budget. This is what you see from the water side, and this is where most of the boat life happens. I can go back. Let me just go back to some of the previous so we can see. Oops. Previous, and that is what it basically would look like if everything was painted the same color. So personally, I don't have a strong opinion in terms of which color it should be. From a historical point of view, you can go as far back to the lap straight, where it was all white, and we have found whitewash underneath the shingles, and we can identify it, and you can see it now where they're exposed on the front. But you could also say we went back to the creosote, which was a very old color. And the brown that is currently on here, which is in this rendition or something slightly darker, has been there for at least, 60 years. So at least from the 60s or the 70s. That's what we sort of figured out. So that's one thing. So that's from a historic point of view. From a practical point of view, it also is a matter of cost. And that is not up to me to decide. Of course, or advise on. I just know that if the whole building had to be reshingled and repainted, you would add, quite a lot of cost to it. You would have to buy the shingles. You'd have to basically redo the work in the front as well, to some degree, because the the coats that are on there now are currently painted. When you start putting fresh on top of that and then repaint again, it just is more saturated on one level and not the same saturation on the other level. So it's sort of hard to do. So I have talked to many people who say, why? Why are we painting it? It's always been like this. And I've talked to people who say, that would be nice. It would be interesting. And I've talked to people who say, let's just keep it historically correct. So there are these options, and they are all connected to a different kind of budget. Now, when you look at the club's budget, and it's all, labor that is voluntary, that becomes an issue. That becomes an issue. I can just see that. Because I know that the cost to reshingle a whole building like this, if you had to do it professionally, it's anywhere from $45,000 to $65,000. And that, I don't, that's just what it is. So, to paint or not to paint,
When do we get to ask questions?
now.
Oh, good. So right now, the bottom of the front is the replaced part or the non-replaced part?
With the new brown shingles that were put up.
Like this.
And what is the top part is the shingles that it was pulled.
Right.
And so these,
that's just the bare, what is it, clapboard or whatever.
It's basically a clapboard style, which was the original. That's basically the original skin of the building. That was just added shingles to.
so what we're faced with is because half of those shingles were already replaced and painted brown, that either we keep it that way or we would have to paint half the front that, and then we get into having to do the whole thing. I'm just
I think
completely.
You did talk about this when we met, but if you could just clarify. If you were to pull off the shingles and leave that clapboard and treat the clapboard that's on there, what would happen?
We don't know what the rest looks like. So there's a lot of holes, there's a lot of gaps, and you're taking away a layer of insulation because there is the black tar paper. It currently was between the shingles and the clapboard. So you're going back to the layer that is the only layer except for any kind of sheetrock or interior homosote or whatever. There's nothing. Right. So basically you're taking away a layer of insulation, and that is one of the reasons why they did it. On the south side, you can see that there's an 1.5 inch thick piece of foam between the old clapboard and the shingles. And that is really a necessity to keep it. Mind that the clubhouse was really just, that whole part of the building towards the south was just really opened with a barn door to pull up the ice boats for the ice fishing and so it was changed from a very rustic structure to something where people actually can spend time summer, winter.
Hi, the roof was done recently, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you do have this brown roof.
That's right.
So I'm not sure that the brown roof works with the gray.
Right. And that was done last year.
Right. So you're not the roof is gonna stay.
Yeah.
So the two options, unless you want to go back to the brown, that I think that is a consideration, is how well it blends with the roof, and we didn't really discuss. Would you have an opinion on that?
Well, I do feel that with a roof with a gray color, the roof shouldn't really be this tan and warm. It should be a darker color. It should have been or a darker gray.
Right.
It
I mean, it should have been a gray that has a little bit more brown to it.
Yes.
Blue. This one has a lot of blue in it, and that was just because it was a random color that Tom picked out from the computer. This was just
Right.
to show some options.
No.
Just so you know.
The gray
But-
doesn't work with the brown, though.
This gray.
I know,
This
but I don't
particular
think
gray.
that gray would work
Right,
with it either.
But the issue is you could find a gray that works with the brown. If you wanted to find a light gray, you could find a gray that works with the brown. Just this one doesn't, because like I said, it was this gray was pulled from the
Okay, but
computer.
then if you use the gray, you have the problem of the gray is not really going to cover this other part.
That's
So
a different issue. I'm
I
just
mean,
saying.
I mean, you have two issues. I think it's going to be harder to match a gray to a brown
Mhm.
than it is to match the creosote to the brown. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
And-
we matched this color. It's a very warm gray.
Mhm.
And I think even there it is a fairly warm gray. But I think for the roof not to stick out, that gray actually has to be deeper and darker. And I think we went a bit darker here just so
Right.
it doesn't all blare out. Now also just note, which you should look at in this picture here, all the railings are basically natural wood. It's pressure treated that has been allowed to weather, so it's starting to get a gray color. But again, we're now working with natural gray here, a gray on the walls, and then this very tan roof. So I think a darker color, even if you want to go with a gray, I think the darker is better, and it should be darker than this, and it maybe should even be darker than this, and also warmer.
But that, just looking to the back of the room, I have one eye open and closed because if you look at the wood on the door behind the room where Tom is videotaping, and so you can, like, from my angle, you can actually see the gray against that color. It's not that different a color from the roof.
That's much redder, Dana.
Yeah,
It's much redder.
It has more amber in it. Yeah.
Okay.
I have to tell you, I'm not feeling like there's a whole lot of choice here. I'm not happy about the fact that I'm feeling like there's not a lot of choice, but I don't know why. I'm just feeling like we're having a conversation. It's done. It's the minute half of that front was put up in that color, it was done.
Well,
Because if
The
If
rest
we
of the
could
building's
have-
that color. Okay, keep talking.
I'm going to smile for 2 seconds. The fact of the matter is that you can have, a front portion of your building that might be a slightly different color. Like you don't want it to be, pink and the rest of your building is something else. But you could have had the front part be a variation of a color with
Sure.
the other three sides that are not seen by the train be those colors. So you didn't have to have the front be the same color, except for now we have half of the front that color. So
Not
I
quite,
don't-
not quite half. I don't think
well,
it's half.
no, but
I'd say it's either
I
a
think-
third or a quarter.
But to have this conversation about what color gray we may or may not have to go, and it has to be that dark, and I know that you and I kind of agree that we don't want it dark. So that defeats that purpose. I don't know what you think about it.
I think the dark. I think it makes a lot of sense to go with the creosote. I think you're going to have a lot less problems in terms of maintenance and wear if you go with a darker color. You buy a train station, so it's going to get dirty. I think if it's done well, I think that this is not, as nice it might be to have like a Cape Cod, structure there. That's not what this is. To Kaya's point, it's a rustic structure. So if you're going to keep with the integrity of what it was, going back to the creosote color makes the most sense because that's the historic nature of the building. I wouldn't try to make it something it's not. I think if you did that, I think the red's going to pop a little bit more. I think there's ways to work with the roof and have it blend. And
So
I
the
think there's,
creosote is that- is
yeah,
that
I,
color?
I that's what I would go with.
This is sort of what the creosote could be, and it could even be a little darker than that. But
Yeah.
that is more of the contrast level you will see between the shutters, and maybe
Honestly, when I looked at it on the building, it looks a lot blacker than brown,
right.
in my opinion, which I actually think will be better than
Yeah.
brown. I think the blacker nature of that
So just
is
the
going
front
to be-
is going to would be
No,
No,
then
the-
they'll paint. They'll
they'll paint
paint.
the rest
They
of the
won't
building.
reshingle it yet. That plan was originally that they were going to do it in phases. So when they have the money to do the other side, but it's still gonna. I mean, it already looks better. Just that they painted the south side. Is that, am I
Correct,
saying
yes.
this correctly?
Yeah.
You would paint the south side as well, the current shingles that are up there, which
Right.
have been replaced
The
over
rest of the building was painted.
and then.
And then move around.
Right, you move
Yeah.
around to the building, and then as they replace the shingles. So it would be that lacquer color. And if you, I mean, I think if you get closer to black, then that actually would look different.
If I could see, I just don't see how that looks.
I don't think that looks black.
No, it doesn't. And again, my screen was much blacker when I was looking at it on my screen and I got a picture and overlay. It's always a matter of what is the color balance of the equipment you're looking at. But if you take this around and just hold it up, straight up, so the light doesn't break it.
Is that the same as that?
That's the same, yes.
Okay.
I painted that piece while we were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, another one.
Karen.
Thank you. So this is the creosote type color? Or the black?
That is the creosote. And again, we can adjust these colors because it's going to be a custom color. We tried to find something that was already existing, but nothing was just right. So we're mixing it. We're going to take this and take it onto the light at Benjamin Moore or Melrose and wherever we're going, and then they will reproduce the color.
So you can make adjustments that would complement the roof as
Yes.
best as possible?
Yes. And I think if there's even a piece of shingle left over from the roof, there probably is. Some of the roof shingle. Right, and then I can take that with me down so we can make sure that we at least adjust it.
Because there may be some of that darker color in that roof that'll pop more.
Right.
Okay, I'm going with Karen's suggestion, and Kim,
I'm willing to.
I think it's the best rationale for
I'm willing to do what you guys are willing to do and what
keeping it historic.
Kaja as a great designer says.
Yeah.
And if this is what the OBCC members have kind of signed on to as well, then that's fine. I mean,
We're gonna we'll stick with that.
Stick with the darker.
Yeah, the darker.
Okay, so in terms of practicality, so that I mentioned that the lower portion that's already up, we want to try to save some money. That if we can just continue up in the process of putting this coat up, and when that's done, then we start painting everything in the new color. So basically everything gets 2 coats.
Yes.
And I think that was, so you will see this being finished in the existing color, and then
Don't freak out.
don't freak out.
We'll change
That's right.
to
Don't
this
freak
new
out.
color. Okay.
And then it will go to that.
Okay. That sounds like a plan.
And I think also when you're looking at then down the line, maybe, some of the railings will be brought into that, maybe the handrails will be changed. It's an AZAC right now. So it's a Trex. And that can be made in a darker to start extending. And those are the things that can be done little by little when the budget allows.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, I think maybe the board or the town should maybe add a little bit of money to this because there's like a $500 to $600 cost in the current paint that now, will have to be redone. So I don't know if that's possible.
We're not willing to take that up at this moment.
Nope. Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Okay. I was just a suggestion.
Okay. Not at this moment.
Okay.
So you 3 like the black?
I mean, like,
Out
I
of the
think-
3, out of the 3.
I think,
light
you know,
is a strong
I have
word.
to tell you that I believe that Kim and I are on the same page. That when we go down there and we look at that original clapboard, that looks great. But
But since we can't have that,
we can't have that, right? I mean, that looks great, but you're saying it's not practical. Again, like I don't exactly understand why because
Because it's over 100 years old.
right. No.
you know,
I'm
but-
talking about the color. I'm talking about
Oh.
the color. I understand.
You mean
that
the color?
but that kind of treatment
There's
isn't
no treatment
practical. What?
Has no treatment in
I
it.
know, but I'm saying we're talking about the way that it looks. The way that it looks great with that original clapboard look. That looks great. But you're saying that's not an option. So
I
make
am
it
not.
look like that.
It's money. It's all about the money.
Right.
It
Well,
is really all about the money. I'm not saying I wouldn't I would love to be able to bring it back to that.
That
And
was-
then have the right insulation on the inside,
Right.
being able to repair what we can't really see that's destroyed at the moment underneath the other sides. And but then we're talking about a historic restoration project that is ka-ching, ka-ching.
Right.
And that's not something I think would be fair to the club to demand, without being able for them to find the funds.
Well,
But
but
you're-
see, now that if that were to be made to the board though as a presentation, in other words, here's what it would take to get it to look like this, then then we would have a conversation not about $500 or
But-
$600, but about how would we make this
But
happen.
can we
and
just
that didn't
clarify,
happen.
are you talking about painting this siding, the cedar shake siding, white?
No.
Okay, to do that in like what you would want a clapboard, you're talking like probably 60, 70, $100,000 to do it.
Patrick just said 65,000.
Well, I mean, 60 and up, yeah.
That's what that's just the siding, the insulation. You're talking $100,000.
All I'm saying is that was not an option that was ever presented to the board. So in other words, if we said we want to go for this Restore New York grant, for example, because that's a way to, incentivize economic development and we're trying to restore old buildings and blah, 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 then we could have had the option to do that. But that didn't come before us in that way. It was just it's like Kim said, it was just I'm sorry, Councilwoman Jeffrey.
You can call me Kim.
I'm
it's
sorry,
all right.
Councilwoman Jeffrey.
It's my name. I'm all right with it.
It would have been a different, we would have approached this much differently.
Well,
Dana, this
I
is a repair.
think-
This is not, this is supposed to be a repair.
We
We
are
are
not a
absolutely
repair, it's a
not
replacement of shingles.
It was something that had to be done to preserve the
a
building.
whole side.
Okay, a whole side of the building, it's shingles.
Uh-huh.
That does not preclude, the board's intention was not to not pursue a grant similar to what you're talking about. The club is willing, and the board has already discussed, trying to find a grant to do the whole building.
Mhm.
So that's not a conversation that's out of,
But
this
once-
is just,
but-
they looked at it and the building was going to be ruined and it had to be covered.
But once you did a repair a certain way, to then undo that to redo, that's not practical.
But
So,
Okay, can I just say something in terms of where it comes from my point of view? I mean, I was brought into this just less than a week ago.
Yes.
Okay. And I just realized this, seeing this going down there and seeing that this was a possibility. Now, a project like this can take 2 to 5 years to get the funding for. Meanwhile, the building has to be protected. And the least that they're doing now is the least that has to be done.
Okay.
And they're not replacing shingles on the south. They're only replacing certain shingles on the Hudson River side where they're really falling off. So the point of getting to that is a different discussion, as you said, but that is not what we were asked to do. We were asked to respond to a request based on the current state of the repair. So I would say that
I don't
is,
know who
but
asked
that is,
that.
but
That's
that is, I mean, that's where I come in.
Right.
I have
Well,
not
one
been,
of- but in fairness, the reality of the situation is, if repairs needed to be made,
Yes.
regardless of how they came about,
Mhm.
there's no way that you could wait the time it
I
would take.
understand.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just to be clear, this is an interim. This is the challenge of all buildings. This is the interim step.
Mhm.
I don't think that anything you did in the interim is going to be vastly different than what you're doing right now.
correct, I think so.
If you're going to protect the building for the 5 years that's going to take to do the grant, to have the money come through, to do the environmental review and everything else, this is really a cost efficient interim step.
Mhm.
So I think that in that respect we're good, and I don't think that doing this precludes doing any larger scope of work on historic preservation.
Good. So what I would suggest then is I would ask that the Wilton Canoe Club document the process right now and what is under there so that we can have access to that and take samples or whatever so that we can have access to that if we do decide we want to pursue a grant to rehab the whole building and maybe bring it back to its original
The
look.
photo documentation is happening. We can't take anything off.
Okay.
That is not correct to do. And everything else that exists underneath the old shingles that eventually will have to be replaced are still there. I can even take one old shingle off and we can see the color of I can figure out what actually was used, whether it was a whitewash. Of course, we can't use that again, but for historic preservation purposes, we should know what was used. And then, present that as a project that really asks for a grant.
You could probably get NYSERDA money too for energy for the insulation. So it's a good grant project, but I don't think this changes anything. I don't think it makes it less
But
viable.
what I do think is that the fact that we're in here having this conversation now is a good thing, because had it gone on and gone ahead and we didn't know about it, we wouldn't have been able to have this conversation. And I'm so happy that we have somebody who's involved on many levels who can document what's happening so that if we want to do it. So I don't think we're saying that we would have wanted a grant, which takes at least 2 years. And believe me, we both know by heart how long grants take, to wait for repair. I think it was a bigger conversation about what are the possibilities and what are the issues and what's the realities, and all that conversation is helpful to having short-term goals and long-term goals. And so I think now we've had some of that. And then I guess the question is, as a short-term goal of replacing, do we do this?
And it
Well,
seems like that's the most
I
practical
defer to
solution.
Karen and then to Dana.
Okay, it seems to me like that this is the most practical solution that's also got historical relevance and accuracy and goes with the roof that's already on there. So I think we should proceed with the dark color.
Okay.
And as Councilwoman DeTore mentioned, I think we should try to see if we can, also just make sure it works with the roof color so that it's not looking
Jarring.
like
Right, because
jarring.
this is going to be reality for quite
For a
some
while,
time.
right,
Yeah.
right. And again, let's do the best that we can to take advantage of the fact that the building's been open and see what we can do all the documentation so that we can then consider what we want to do for the longer term. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I would have gotten.
I can leave the PowerPoint presentation.
You really hate that brown, don't you?
Seriously.
Okay.
All right.
I don't hate the black. It's just the cost of redoing it.
All about the process.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm looking at the boards back here. Okay, so our other work session item this evening is an update on MOGO, or Millwood Ossining Go. So the town of Ossining, working with the town of Newcastle and the village of Ossining, was awarded a $30,000 grant by the Hudson River Valley Greenway to plan and design a network of open space corridors and bike lanes that could better connect our neighborhoods, tourist destinations, and commercial hubs. Along with confidential Secretary Victoria Caffarelli, I have been working closely with Ossining and Newcastle planning staff and with the Westchester County planner Tracy Corbett to map out some potential options. And we had our first 2 community forums at Club Fit Briarcliff this past Thursday, and had an opportunity to hear from our public about what they thought about some of these routes. So I brought some of the posters that we had so that I could share with the board. Councilwoman Feldman was able to attend and weigh in, and I was hoping that the board would also have an opportunity to take a look at some of the routes that we have, as well as some of the questions that we were asking of the community. So we talked a little bit about the goals and the context, and I'm going to go over there and just read it because it's not very
Can you
long.
show what the routes we're talking
I'm going
about
to.
are?
That's going to be the last part that I talked about.
Okay.
I'm just going to see if I can move this microphone over, maybe, so you can hear me. So over here, I don't know, Tom, am I blocking? I don't know, which way do I face? Am I good this way? Just reading it, or this way? How about this? Okay. So the town of Austin and Newcastle are developing plans to enhance pedestrian and bike access between commercial areas and open space in the Austin and Newcastle area. This plan aims to connect the Austin train station and business districts in the downtown of Austin, along with North State Road, which is in the town of Austin, to the Millwood Hamlet, as well as to the many beloved open spaces that are sort of in the area. This trail network will be an emerald necklace for the region, bolstering economic development and the tourism industry while reducing the community's environmental impact through the conservation of open space and decreased dependence on cars for transportation. These improvements for pedestrian and bike access and safety are expected to be especially beneficial to the many residents in our community who do not have access to a car for transportation to and from work, school, and or play. So here's sort of the area that we're looking to connect, the downtown village of Austin over to the North County Trailway. In between, we have the Briarcliff Peekskill Trailway, which is not that superly well kept trail that connects all the way up to T-Town. And we have the Old Croton Aqueduct.
Can you just, okay, so the Briarcliff Peekskill Trailway.
Yep, that's over.
Can you, what, is that the one that goes by the village of Briarcliff's, like, community center, or?
The North County Trailway.
That's the north.
It does connect up around here.
So which one is the Briarcliff Peekskill
This is the
Trailway?
Briarcliff.
I know, but I'm trying to,
It's hard. It's
for the
it's
world
not-
to
it
know.
goes along 9A.
It goes along 9A.
Correct. It's
Okay.
Like, it goes along 9A, and then it probably.
Okay.
But this is about kind of where 9A is. Okay?
So the north, what's the other
The
one?
North County.
So
Trailway.
that one is the one that goes along Route 100?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Goes along Route 100.
So that one, I think people
People know
you
this
could
one
see that
really,
because
really,
they,
really well,
yes,
right.
people walk and
And
run,
that
they
one, and
bike.
then the Old Croton Aqueduct, which kind of goes along, the Hudson River for
Right, so they
around
walk
us,
that.
and then it goes up into Croton into following the aqueduct.
So people, from what my very small observation,
Mhm.
people seem to walk along the Croton Aqueduct, sometimes bike, I guess it depends, but more walk, I think. They tend, I see more, okay, I see more bikers along the north, whatever that's called.
Because it's more paved.
North-
So the Old Croton Aqueduct is not as paved,
Right.
right?
And then
North County Trailway.
North County Trailway.
Right.
I don't know about the
And this
Briarcliff Peekskill one.
is not that well kept. That's what I was saying. This is more people walking,
Hiking, maybe?
Yep.
That's, okay.
hiking.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So, but there are definitely people who bike along the Old Croton Aqueduct and potentially could bike along the Briarcliff Peekskill Trailway. And then of course, there's parks in between and along the way. So I just want to point out, so we asked a little bit about people, what's important to them, our community's health and safety is best supported by, and then we asked them to kind of put green stickies on the things that were important to them and the red stickies on things that weren't important to them. And really mostly people just put the green stickies on the areas that were important to them. And we talked about on-street parking, reduced traffic, pedestrian safety, walking and biking to school, public transportation, access to open space and parks, bike lanes, biking to work, access to existing bike trails and parks, better sidewalks, decreased vehicular speeds, sense of community, improved parking, and intersection safety. And somebody added up there a sticky that says hiking opportunities. And then over here we had, turn around, Tom, can you still see? Why I walk and bike, where I currently walk and bike, and places I would like to walk and bike. I'd like to be able to walk and bike to. And so people kind of filled in with, just open comments with sticky notes. They put those up there. On this side, and this is the part that Tom said won't be able to see standing in front of it, so I'm going to try to. Is that still okay? Okay. Okay. Here are some of the in the highlighted areas are some of the routes that our task force identified as being sort of popular potential routes to get from point A to point B. So really looking at that sort of east-west connection from downtown Austining over and across to North County Trailway. And as you can see, there's a whole sort of network of yellow lines that connect it. And we worked closely with the Westchester Cycle Club. We had a representative who actually went and biked all of these routes. We went out on the bus with the rec department van to take a look at what these routes looked like. And then the county actually mapped the most popular routes, which there are 4 routes that are the most popular routes. One of them is, which we keep referring to as the Cadillac Route, just straight along 133 from downtown Austining or the train station up the hill and straight across 133. And, there's obviously lots of issues that you think about, especially in the downtown area with parking. The state, and I think I had mentioned this at some prior meetings, the state had agreed to do a draft study for us of what the engineering would actually, what would it take, and give us some estimates of what it would take for a variety of ways that we could tackle a bike lane on Route 133 that would go all the way from downtown Austining to North County Trailway. So they're in the process of doing that. I think that they're going to have a report for us pretty soon. The state was very excited. The DOT was very excited about this because the North County Trailways eventually is going to be part of the Empire State Trail. So this is part of the governor's initiative to connect Buffalo to New York City. And anything that can make it easier for municipalities to bring people and connect to the Empire State from public transportation, from the city, or any other way is something that would be seen as positive for economic development. So they're very interested in making this work and potentially, and I'm not going to put words into the state's mouth ever, but potentially could see it as a pilot project that down the line would be something that would benefit other municipalities as well. So while we know that there's a number of obstacles that would seemingly be along the way to get a bike lane on 133, especially when we all know we're very close to, what's that look like for all the parking spaces and all those sorts of things. The state is going to give us some kind of road map, pun intended, no pun intended, to how we could potentially get there, what it would take to get something like that to be a reality.
Okay. Is the state only interested in exploring routes that go through state roads or county roads? I mean, for instance, if we wanted to talk about going up Underhill to, or Underhill.
So when we have those other routes, but the only one that they were willing to look at the engineering for was the state route. And although they went a little bit beyond, so they went actually the part that the state owns and manages is only from 9A over to Millwood, and the village manages the part from 9A to Route 9.
Okay.
So they are not responsible. The state, but the state is also looking all the way to Main Street. Basically, they're looking at that whole route for us from an engineering perspective. They're going to give us a draft, a report on that. But there are other options, and I need to pull out those other maps. So just give me 1 second. I just wanted to stagger this. Thank you. So, let me just do this too. Sorry, everybody.
No, more over. Get it, swing it all the way down, all the way down.
Yeah, the board classes. Okay. Anyhow, so as I mentioned, we have the Route 133, and what you can see is you can also see the distance and the elevation or the climb. So these colorful pieces here kind of show you from the start to the finish how the elevation is going to change. And you can see that that one's kind of even. That's Route 133. And as you would imagine, there's definitely little peaks. But then Pinesbridge Road, which is this route here, starting in downtown, goes along Yale Avenue, then to Dale, Pine Avenue, Ryder Road, Pinesbridge Road, to Inningwood Road, and then it comes back and loops around back over to Route 100 and then across 100 to North County Trailway. That's 4.67 miles with a climb of 506 feet on average with a maximum elevation of 621 feet. And you can see people have made some comments, and hopefully you'll have an opportunity to make some comments too before you leave tonight. You don't have to do it on camera, but it would be great if you could just add your comments, because we're going to try to capture all of these comments about what your favorite routes would be. And then over here we have Croton Dam Road route. This is 8.73 miles with an average climb of 662 feet, and it goes from downtown along Sherwood. I don't know why it says Sherwood Avenue. It doesn't go along Sherwood Avenue. This goes basically along 134.
That Croton Dam Road, you said?
Yeah, Croton Dam Road route. This is basically 134.
Yeah, but on the side where
The hill? Are you talking about the big hill?
yeah,
It's got a big hill, so that's why this one's the most challenging.
curvy,
When in the
huge
village.
hill.
In the village, but it's possible that you could connect 133 to 134. So in other words, you can be on 133 until you get over to where it intersects with 134, and then you miss.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or
Because
you could go
that
to Hawks. I
curve
mean,
on Croton Dam Road where that hill is,
yeah,
that I could see being a situation.
and there's definitely mixes and matches here.
Right.
There's no doubt that that's a possibility. But so this is basically, 134 is a very wide road, and lots of people say, well, why don't you just go on 134? Lots of room there to do, cycling. You don't have.
Is the state willing to look at 134? Because we have a lot of truck traffic on 134.
Yeah, and the state might be, but we may not need as much work on 134 in general. But I don't. They haven't said they wouldn't. But
I'm just saying
looking
there
at
are a lot of
130.
trucks on 130. I mean, we
Yeah.
know there's traffic and there's vehicles, but 134 is unique in that it has a significant amount of traffic.
Mhm.
So that is just a little concerning.
Okay. So, and that would be great if you could add those comments over here
Okay.
too. And then Pleasantville Road to Briarcliff, which is basically Spring Street over to up Waller across M. Wilton. Then over to Walden Road, and then back behind Macy onto Macy Road, over to Apple Lane and Orchard, back by Wishney Park. You get to Pleasantville Road, and then you continue on Pleasantville Road over to North State Road, and then North State Road takes you out to right to 100 and gets you to the North County Trailway, and that's about 5.3 miles total, which with an average climb of 525 feet. So these all have benefits and challenges, and the other part about them is what we're hoping is that we can also end up with a map of different routes. So there may be opportunities, if you don't actually build a bike lane, to have signage that points out what are the best routes to cycle on, and we may be able to do some restriping on some roads without having to re-engineer an entire bike lane. So, for example, North State Road is the perfect road for that, and we have applied for a grant to take a look at restriping and improving North State Road to make it more bike friendly. It already is pretty pedestrian friendly, but so that's an option that we're looking at. So anyway, I just wanted the board to have an opportunity to weigh in on this. Again, if you could just put some comments or thoughts up here, we're going to capture all of those. And then on November 2nd, there'll be another opportunity for the public to come weigh in at the Austin Public Library at 1 o'clock and at 7 o'clock, which is what we did last time at Club Fit. And we're very grateful to Club Fit for having provided a bunch of freebies and some delicious food. And I think they're planning to do that again at the library. So that's about where we're at right now with this.
I want to thank you for your work on this. I have to say, at first I was like, I'm not overly interested. I don't bike. I should. And, if you're not somebody who's out, and I mean, I'm out and about in many, many ways, but maybe not on taking advantage of all of these spaces all the time. However, I think it would be fairly magnificent for us to have the kind of community where you would see a lot of people biking and, people, doing walks. And I think we've done so much of that in these 5Ks that we're starting to have, and through Austining Matters, which was so great in kind of starting that whole thing. Now we have the PBA who's doing this. My kids bike, and I had a heart attack today because my husband allowed my children to bike on Morningside Drive. And if anybody knows that area, that's not so great the thought process of kind of making a bike friendly areas, I think is fabulous. It's on so many levels. It's health, it's community, it's environment. So thank you for the work.
Sure. And thanks for listening.
Excellent, Dana.
Yeah, and it's also just exciting because there's really a trend towards ecotourism. So one of the other things that we've talked about and we've seen is, there's just, even if you just go across Chappaqua Road from Chappaqua Road and you want to cross 100,
Every day.
right?
I do it every day.
And you can get to North County Trailway right there.
Yes.
There's no signage there. If somebody's on the trail going from the south to the north or vice versa, and they're not even starting in Austining, they're just passing through by Briarcliff,
Because
they would have no idea that North State Road is just one block, essentially, 1 block over, very little bit over. So you have a kid who wants to go get something to drink or get a slice of pizza or get an ice cream or yogurt or whatever. You don't even know that there's so many things right there on North State Road. So even just a sign or a kiosk that would help people. So that's kind of like the low-hanging fruit. Those are some of the things that we think we can do inexpensively with, we applied for this other grant using the money that we got from our electric car, exactly, all those initiatives, to try to do some of that work on North State Road. And we're hoping that, that will be the start of something that can make people think of Austining and Briarcliff as more bike-friendly communities, and maybe want to come up here for the day, utilize our parks, and utilize and patronize our businesses, and spend some time here because it's just like a great day trip from the city,
Right.
where you can throw your bikes into the train or whatever and come bike around. And again, the idea of having different levels of trails. So
Difficulty.
if you have your kid, in the back with those little tenty things, whatever those little trailers are on the back of your bicycle, or if you're an avid cyclist and you're looking for a 50-mile bike, how does this all tie into your day? How do you plan your stops around a stop in Austining and Briarcliff? So,
To your point,
And
a
Miller.
very, very small point, there's a sign on North State Road in Ryder that says Ryder Park. It shows, and that's the last sign you see. So when you get to the next street, you don't know where to go.
Right.
So we might need to take that up in conjunction
Sure.
with all this.
Absolutely.
'Cause I can't tell you how many people are like, "Where's Ryder Park?" This is awesome.
The signs, I think, are a great idea because, pizza, ice cream this way, air for your bike tire that
Exactly.
way, and just like a highway sign, okay, get off here and you can find this, get off there and you can find that. I
Absolutely.
think that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. And our businesses, and Club Fit is actually very interested in partnering also with us on this because they're trying to, just incentivize people to be healthier in general. And so this is, they're right along the route, and this is a great opportunity for them as well. So
Yeah, they could be doing programs through that.
they could be doing programs, and there's lots of synergies for so many of our local businesses here with this kind of approach to bike lanes.
And I do know people
pedestrian-
who like to ride to and from the gym as kind of a, warm up and a cool down being the thing. No, I do.
That's on Maddie's list.
They also have a really good,
see
food
them.
place.
Well, I'm so glad that we got to talk about this on camera, and I hope that you will all continue to participate and weigh in and encourage others that you know to do so. So November 2nd, that's our next time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, come and close it out.
November 2nd at the library, or November 2nd at the.
At what
November
time?
2nd 's at Austin Public Library, either 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 to 2, or 7 to 8 in the evening. All right. I actually think we are just going to adjourn. I know it sounds crazy, but we do not have executive session material this evening, so we're just gonna, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next Tuesday, right back here at 16 Croton. We have a work session. Have a good night and have a great weekend.